Chapter 1. The Spark of an Idea. Los Angeles hummed in its usual rhythm, like a colossal organism whose heart beat in sync with millions of footsteps, car horns, and the distant roar of planes soaring into an endless sky. The streets, steeped in the sin of hot asphalt, exhaust fumes, and the salty tang of ocean wind, sang their endless song, a melody of progress, chaos, and human destinies. Elon Musk walked along the sidewalk, his long shadow trailing behind him like the wake of a rocket streaking through the stratosphere. His face, lit by flickering neon signs, was tense, and his gaze was as sharp as a laser cutting through the darkness. He was a man whose dreams outpaced time, a boy from Pretoria, South Africa, who dismantled his first computer at age 10, a teenager who sold the Game Blaster for $500, an entrepreneur who defied the laws of physics and skeptics alike, launching rockets into the stars and gliding electric cars along the roads like specters from the future. Yet that evening, a shadow gnawed at his soul, a subtle, almost imperceptible haze, like the mist hovering over the Martian plains he longed to explore. "We're building bridges to the stars," he murmured to himself as he paused before a glass storefront, gazing at his reflection. But someone remains beneath those bridges, down here in the dust. His projects, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, were beacons of progress, torches ignited by his own hands. In them, he envisioned a future of Martian cities, smog-free roads, and minds enhanced by technology. Yet something was slipping past his vision, a minute detail like a bug in code that he couldn't pinpoint. Elon felt a void, as if his rockets were shooting into space and leaving behind people whose lives were drowning in the shadows of his triumphs. He slowed his pace, lost in thought about his journey. His childhood in South Africa had been a series of trials, loneliness, books for companions, and early experiments with technology. Then came the move to Canada, working construction jobs, studying, and ultimately abandoning it all for Zip2. Late nights hunched over keyboards, his first millions, rocket failures, tears, and victories, the path always led him forward, guided by a light at the tunnel's end. But what about those for whom the tunnel had become home? And then he saw him. A man sat at the edge of the sidewalk, wrapped in an old, tattered blanket, worn like the sails of a forgotten ship. Clutched in his hands was a piece of cardboard, upon which the words, "$1 for a programmer," were scrawled in chalk. Elon stopped in his tracks. Something about this man, in his stooped posture, the way his fingers clutched the chalk, and in his eyes, where a spark of former pride still flickered, cut through him like the sharp edge of truth. He moved closer, crouched down without regard for the surprised glances of passers-by hustling by with bags and phones. "Programmer, you say?" Elon's voice was gentle, yet resonated with a curiosity reminiscent of those early days when he himself pinned code in a cramped room, dreaming of the stars. The man lifted his head. His name was Jake. A face, etched with wrinkles like a map of long-forgotten roads, bore the marks of weariness, yet his deep gray eyes still glowed with a faint, persistent fire. "I once was," Jake rasped, his voice crackling like an old radio tuned to a lost frequency. "I wrote code for startups in Silicon Valley. I lived in a world of ones and zeros, building systems that promised to change everything. And then it all collapsed, and I fell with it. Now I ask for $1. Not charity, you see? It's simply a sign that I haven't been erased from the code of this world." Elon retrieved a bill from his pocket but hesitated to hand it over immediately. Studying Jake, a spark lit in his mind, a spark as bright as the one that had once ignited SpaceX in his imagination. This man, sitting on the pavement, was not just homeless, he was a mirror, reflecting those left behind by progress. Elon leaned closer, his voice softening yet gaining resolve. "What if you had a chance?" he asked. "Not for $1, but for a real reboot. What would you do?" Jake managed a wry smile, a mix of bitterness and nostalgia for a bygone era. "I'd go back to coding," he replied, staring off into emptiness. "I'd find the bug in my life and fix it. I'd rewrite the algorithm that brought me here. But that takes more than luck, it takes a whole system. A time machine, perhaps, or a miracle." Elon smiled, a smile reserved for moments when he saw a solution where others saw dead ends. He recalled his own first steps, earning his first money on a game at age 12, abandoning graduate studies for a dream, and spending sleepless nights debugging X.com until his fingers ached. His life had been a series of bugs and patches, yet he always found a way forward, guided by the stars and sheer stubbornness. And what did Jake have? A scrap of cardboard, $1, and a waning hope. "A time machine isn't needed," Elon said as he rose from the pavement. "What we need is an idea. And I've just found it, thanks to you." He extended the dollar to Jake, and in that gesture lay more than mere charity. The bill settled into Jake's palm like a seed cast upon dry soil. "This isn't charity," Elon added, locking eyes with him. "It's an investment. See you around, Jake." Jake watched him go, clutching the dollar, while Elon strode toward his car, feeling a flame ignite in his chest. Technology, his greatest gift, could soar to the stars, energize cities, and connect minds. But now he saw something else. It could also reach down to the very depths of the earth to lift those who had fallen. Progress, he thought, should not be blind. It must see everyone, from the engineer in his office to the man with a cardboard sign on the street corner. And in that moment, beneath the shimmering lights of Los Angeles, an idea was born that would change not only his world but also the world of those he had once overlooked. Chapter 2. The Code of Hope. That evening, the Tesla office resembled a space station on the brink of launch. The glow of dozens of monitors reflected off glass walls, creating the illusion of a starry sky. Keyboards clicked like engines building up power, and the air vibrated with the tension of ideas being born in the minds of engineers gathered around a long table. Elon Musk stood by a vast panoramic window, gazing out over Los Angeles sprawled before him like a galaxy he longed to conquer. The city's lights twinkled like signals from distant worlds, drawing him in, yet his thoughts remained fixed on something else, the man with the cardboard sign whose words still echoed in his head. Jake, the homeless programmer, had become not a chance encounter but a mirror reflecting the part of the world that Elon's quest for the stars had long ignored. Tapping his fingers against the glass, Elon recalled nights spent coding for Zip-2, the early faltering launches of Falcon 1, and the relentless determination that drove him to rise after every fall. "We build machines that don't burn gasoline, and rockets that return to Earth," he began, turning to his team, his voice trembling with the excitement of those early days when he risked everything for SpaceX. "But what if we created something even greater? A system that could breathe new life into a person, someone who's lost everything, who's fallen so low they see no way out." The engineers exchanged glances. Lisa, sporting short hair and an electric circuit tattoo on her wrist, raised her hand with a tone that was skeptical yet curious. "Elon, are you talking about a social program? We're not a charity, we're engineers. Our domain is technology, not saving souls." He stepped toward the table, his eyes sparkling like a star suddenly flaring in the night sky. "No, Lisa, it's not charity. It's technology. An artificial intelligence that analyzes data, skills, health, available resources, and crafts a plan like a doctor writing a prescription or a GPS charting a route through the chaos of a broken life." Thus was born HeartNet. The name came to him in an instant, like lightning illuminating a dark corner of his mind, a network woven from the heart, from that spark of hope he'd seen in Jake's eyes despite his tattered blanket and cardboard sign. This system was meant to be a beacon in the night, a guiding thread for those lost in the storms of fate, a bridge over the chasm of despair. The team was fired up, and the office buzzed with renewed energy. Algorithms were written from scratch. Lines of code flowed like rivers. Data was gathered from open sources, and neural networks were trained on thousands of scenarios, as if awakening a mind to life. Elon observed it all, recalling his first steps in Silicon Valley, those sleepless nights with X.com, and moments when, young and stubborn, he challenged the world. Now he set a condition. "Our first user will be Jake," he declared at the next meeting, his voice as firm as steel. "Find him. He's our starting code, our point of reference." 3 days later, they found him on the same street corner where he sat wrapped in his worn-out blanket, clutching his cardboard sign like the last shield of his dignity. Elon approached with a tablet in hand, its screen glowing with a soft blue light, a beacon in the fog. "Remember when I said this was an investment?" he asked as he sat down beside him on the pavement, ignoring the grime and curious stares of passers-by. "Here's your return, Jake." Jake took the device hesitantly, his fingers trembling. On the screen, a message appeared. "Welcome to HeartNet. Let's begin." The system spoke to him, a voice as warm as a sunbeam piercing through clouds. It asked questions. "What are your skills? What have you lost? What do you desire?" Jake answered, his hoarse voice, laden with fatigue, telling tales of his years in Silicon Valley coding for startups, of dreams shattered alongside a failed company, of nights under bridges where cold and loneliness gnawed at his soul. Within an hour, HeartNet generated a plan: retraining courses, temporary housing, a list of job openings. Yet Elon leaned in closer, their eyes locking. "You're not just a tester," he said softly but firmly. You're a teacher. HeartNet knows numbers, algorithms, and logic, but it doesn't understand people. Show it what it means to be human, what it means to fall and still search for the light. Jake nodded, and in his eyes a spark ignited, faint like the first star at dusk, but real. He began interacting with the system, explaining how pride makes it hard to ask for help, how hope can drown under the weight of failure, how the cold of the streets can extinguish one's will to live. His words wove into the code, and HeartNet learned, its algorithms branching out like fresh limbs on a tree as data came alive, infused with a human warmth absent from cold databases. From his office, Elon watched through the window as Los Angeles glowed with the promise of the future. He recalled sleepless nights, his failures, and the victories snatched from fate with sheer grit. Technology, he mused, was not merely metal and code, rockets and cars. It was a bridge that could span the divides in human lives. And Jake, the man with a cardboard sign and a broken destiny, had become the first to step onto that bridge, holding not only a tablet, but also the chance to rewrite his own story. Chapter 3. A Reboot of Life. Los Angeles awoke beneath a gray sky, where heavy clouds hung like unfinished lines of code caught in an endless loop of errors, and the first rays of sunlight broke through like faint signals of hope, beckoning a new beginning. In the Tesla office, a deceptive silence reigned, punctuated only by the measured hum of servers where HeartNet wove its digital threads, binding shattered lives into a tapestry of possibilities. Elon Musk stood by a wide panoramic window, clutching a now-cold cup of coffee, much like dreams that never materialized on time, as his gaze drifted beyond the horizon, to where his visions of Mars and cities beneath red skies intersected with a new, terrestrial reality. He saw people he'd once overlooked, those who remained beneath the bridges of his ambitions, whose lives were drowning in the shadows of his triumphs. The system was working. The first users, then dozens, and eventually hundreds of lost souls were finding jobs, housing, and medical care. HeartNet analyzed data with the cold precision of a surgeon excising pain, dispensing recovery plans like prescriptions for wounded lives. Yet a subtle unease grew within Elon, a worry as delicate as a crack in a rocket's hull. Reminiscent of those early days when SpaceX's first launches ended with scorched scars on the ground, and he, gritting his teeth, searched for the cause amid charred wreckage, refusing to give in. Jake, the man with the cardboard sign who had become the linchpin of this chain, stood as living proof of the system's success. He had moved into a modest apartment with white walls and a creaky bed, secured a job at a small IT company, and watched as his fingers, once clutching chalk on a street corner, began to dance across a keyboard, resurrecting the skills of his Silicon Valley days. His life seemed rebooted. In the morning, he sipped cheap coffee while gazing out of a smudged window. In the evening, he returned home to a roof over his head rather than the cold asphalt. Yet when he came to the Tesla office to share his progress, Elon noticed a shadow in his eyes, a fatigue clinging to him like an old blanket once worn as armor against the world. One evening, left alone together in a room filled with screens where HeartNet blinked green lines like the pulse of a living creature born of code and hope, Elon spoke. "You got everything you wanted, didn't you?" he asked, taking a sip of coffee, his voice soft but laced with a tremor of worry, like those nights he anxiously awaited news of the next rocket launch. Jake lifted his gaze. His face, now cleansed of street dust, bore the traces of time, wrinkles etched deeper than before, eyes where a spark still flickered yet was shrouded in darkness. "The system gave me a chance," Jake replied, tapping his finger on the table like playing out the rhythm of a long-forgotten melody he once coded. "A job, a home, even fixed my teeth. You see, I can smile. But it can't give me faith in myself. I wake up, code all day, and go to sleep, but inside there's emptiness, as if someone rebooted the machine and forgot to turn on the soul. I'm alive, but I don't feel alive." Elon set his cup aside, his brows knitting together like when he combed through X.com's code, hunting for the bug that shattered the system, or scrutinized Tesla's blueprints, searching for perfection. He recalled his sleepless nights after selling Zip2, when the world lay at his feet yet loneliness gnawed at him, a sharp shard of glass piercing the heart. Or the days when rockets exploded one after another, and he, hunched over his desk, wondered if it was time to give up, yet stubbornly pressed on. HeartNet was a marvel, algorithms, data, logic, but Jake had opened his eyes to its flaw. It saw numbers, not souls, It tallied resources without noticing how years on the street had eroded people's self-belief, how emotional burnout extinguished their inner light. This was the bug that Elon Musk, the man who once dreamed of the stars, had never anticipated in his relentless pursuit of progress. "Then let's fix it," Elon declared as he rose, his voice hardening like the steel that built his rockets. "You know what needs to be done. Tell me, Jake, how do we make it truly alive?" Jake paused, gazing at the screen where HeartNet hummed quietly, a system that sounded alive yet remained distant from genuine life. "It needs to hear more than just words," he began slowly, his voice rough like an old radio but filled with resolve. "It needs to catch the tone, the tremble in my hands when I speak. Let it see the expression on my face, notice how I slouch when I'm tired. It shouldn't just spit out a plan. It should talk to you like a friend, like someone who understands what it means to fall. Without that, even the best algorithm is just a cold robot, not a rescue." Elon nodded, his mind already at work as in the days when he coded alone for X.com or sought solutions for Tesla amid a swarm of engineers. He assembled his team, and the office sprang to life like a launch pad before takeoff. Engineers raced to their stations, neural networks were rewritten from scratch, and new modules were integrated into the code like threads woven into fabric. HeartNet acquired empathy. Now it listened to voices, analyzed speech rhythms, picked up pauses, saw faces through cameras, read gestures, and sensed when a person was on the edge. The system was updated, its voice now warm and vibrant like the setting sun casting light on parched earth. It no longer merely dispensed instructions, it conversed, motivated, and selected words as if it were a mentor who knows how to lift you up even when you can't see a way forward. A week later, Jake returned to the office with, for the first time in a long while, a genuine smile, a beam of light piercing through the clouds. "She told me, you're stronger than you think, Jake," he shared, sitting across from Elon, his voice trembling with emotion. "For the first time in years, I believed I could not just survive, but truly live." Elon looked at him, warmth welling up inside like the triumph of a successful Falcon 9 landing, standing on the pad as the rocket returned home. HeartNet had become more than a tool or mere code. It was a voice that people heard when their own had fallen silent, a light ignited in their eyes when darkness seemed everlasting. The system was rebooting not just lives but hearts, and Elon realized this was his most humane project, born not from dreams of space, nor from blueprints and formulas, but from a chance encounter on the street. A single dollar that became a seed of hope. Chapter 4. The Price of Progress. Los Angeles was bathed in the golden glow of sunset, where the sun, like molten metal, melted at the horizon, reflecting off glass-clad skyscrapers, and shadows stretched out like cables binding the city in a single network. In the Tesla office, the air crackled with tension. HeartNet was growing, its voice resonating in hundreds of homes, its algorithms lifting people from the ground, and news of the project spreading like sparks from a rocket's launch. Elon Musk sat at his desk, surrounded by papers and screens where success graphs soared upward like the trajectory of a Falcon 9. Yet his face, usually alight with dreams of the stars, was somber, and his fingers fidgeted nervously with a pen, a habit harking back to the days when he coded for Zip2 in solitude, uncertain if his first company would survive. The success of HeartNet had attracted attention. Investors called incessantly, officials sent letters, and the media splashed sensational headlines. Some saw the system as a tool for social support capable of rewriting millions of destinies. Others viewed it as a lever for control that could keep the vulnerable in check. Elon gazed out the window at the city shimmering like his vision of the future and recalled his early steps, a South African childhood filled with books and solitude, the first lines of code at age 12, a move to Canada where he scrubbed floors to survive. Back then, he dreamed of freedom, the freedom to create, build, and change the world. HeartNet had become the embodiment of that freedom for those who had lost it, yet now he faced a choice as sharp as a blade: to keep the project within his company's protective wing or hand it over to the state, risking that the system, born to help, might become an instrument of surveillance. He thought of Jake, whose life had blossomed thanks to HeartNet, and of the people whose voices he'd heard in reports, faint yet alive. What would become of them if his creation fell into the wrong hands? Jake entered the office, his steps now surer than before, holding a tablet displaying HeartNet's data. He had become not just a tester, but an integral part of the team, a man whose street-hardened experience imbued the system with humanity. "Elon, have you heard about these smart cities?" Jake asked as he sat down across from him, his voice quiet yet laced with concern. Elon looked up, setting his pen aside. "I have. Investors want to integrate HeartNet into their networks. What do you know? Jake placed the tablet on the table. The screen flashed a document, a proposal from a major corporation whose name Elon knew all too well. One of them, a big player, wants to embed the system into a control program, Jake said, his fingers clenching into fists. They talk about help, but I've seen their plans. Cameras, sensors, profiles on every user. No anonymity, Elon. They'll take from people what HeartNet has given them, the freedom to be themselves. Elon rose, his steps echoing through the room like those moments when he paced the launch pad, knowing everything hung by a thread. He recalled his battles, fighting for Tesla when investors sought control, defending SpaceX when the world laughed at his rockets. HeartNet was his brainchild, born of a chance encounter, of a dollar tossed on the pavement, of the belief that technology could not only reach for the stars but also come down to Earth. But now he faced a dilemma: to keep the system under his control, risking drowning in bureaucracy and greed, or to let it go, knowing it might become shackles for those it was meant to liberate. They don't understand, he said, looking at Jake, his voice trembling with anger. This isn't a tool for their games. It's a voice for those who've been silenced. Jake nodded, his eyes, once dull, now burning with determination. Then don't let them take it, he urged. I know what it's like to lose everything. Don't let them strip away what we've built for others. Elon returned his gaze to the window, watching the sunset bathe the city in a blood-tinged light. He recalled his failures: rocket explosions, millions evaporated into thin air, nights spent sleeping in the Tesla office, fearing tomorrow might never come. Yet each time he rose because he believed in a purpose greater than himself. HeartNet was that purpose, not for fame, not for personal glory, but for people like Jake. Still, the price of progress loomed before him like a wall: to maintain control or risk everything. The answer weighed heavy in his chest, as dense as the fuel in a rocket's tank, poised for launch yet unignited. Chapter 5. A Heart in the Network. Los Angeles slipped into night, cloaked in gentle darkness through which stars pierced the smog like beacons calling to something greater. In the Tesla office, the subdued lighting and the bluish glow of HeartNet screens created an atmosphere of intense focus, while the low hum of servers carried the system's voice, one capable of changing lives. Standing before his team, Elon appeared as a shadow of the man who once dreamed of Mars, a man who had now found a new purpose. He had made a firm decision: the source code of HeartNet would be open to all, accessible to developers, social services, and charitable organizations alike. We're taking a risk, but the world deserves a chance, he declared, looking directly into the eyes of those present. Memories of his childhood in Pretoria warmed his soul: the books of Heinlein and Clark, the first lines of code at age 12, the move to Canada where he washed dishes while learning to survive. His life had been a series of bold gambles, from Zip2 to SpaceX, from Tesla to X.com. Every new project was a defiant challenge to fate, embraced with the belief in the freedom to create, share, and dream. Now HeartNet had become his final gift, a system he was ready to release so that the world could breathe life into it. Beside him stood Jake, a man once battered by life on the streets, now the project's curator, exuding a calm confidence. He turned to Elon and said, "We're not just giving people a home or a job," Jake stated, his voice rough but resolute. "We're giving them the chance to be heard. HeartNet will become the voice for those forgotten by society." Elon nodded, recalling his own failures: rocket disasters, sleepless nights in the Tesla office when bankruptcy loomed over every decision. Yet every setback had only strengthened his faith in a grander future. "We must move forward, no matter what," he murmured, leaning against a cold wall. At the support center built around HeartNet, people gathered to listen to the system's voice and to receive encouragement from those who had weathered similar storms. In the hall, where Jake made his first presentation, genuine dialogues unfolded. "I lost everything, but HeartNet gave me hope," one visitor admitted, her eyes shining with emotion. "We're all here to support one another," another added. "Each one of you is important to this community." Elon watched these exchanges, feeling a warmth akin to the elation of a successful Falcon 1 launch. His gaze shifted to the stars, and he remembered his dreams of Mars, now complemented by a new goal: uniting people. On the center's rooftop, where the wind scattered clouds and revealed the stars, Jake quietly said, "Elon, you gave us the code, and we gave it soul. This is our shared success." Elon smiled in reply. "No, Jake, it's you who made it so. I merely opened the door, and you filled it with life." They fell silent, gazing out at the city's lights where HeartNet, born from a chance encounter, had become the living heart of mutual aid. The system had grown from a dream into pain, gaining strength from the thousands of voices that added their own warmth and hope to the collective cause. In that center of support, people shared stories of their falls and rises, finding solace in the strength to move forward. Developers and volunteers, inspired by the open source code, continued to enhance the system, merging technology with the human spirit. In this unity, where technology transformed into a bridge between people, a new era was born, an era of mutual aid, belief, and shared victories. Thus, HeartNet became more than just a program. It became a symbol that even in the darkest times, the light of hope can illuminate the way. Amid conversations, laughter, and quiet confessions, the future emerged, a future where every voice mattered and every heart played its role in the grand dance of
If
life.
you enjoyed this story, we'd love for you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to continue sharing heartwarming, inspiring stories almost every day.